The people's Princess Diana ruled over the hearts of many during her lifetime as a prominent royal family member. But one particular person won her heart. If you've been keeping up with The Crown, you already know the romance between Princess Diana and Hasnat Khan. Today we'll talk about their relationship and what really went down between them in the show and in real life. So let's get into it. First up, let's break down their relationship and begin from the start. The beloved princess was unlucky in marriage but soon found a man who she is said to be deeply in love with. That man was a heart surgeon called Hasnat Khan. It was her last long-time relationship before her untimely death. The Crown centers season 5 on Diana's relationship with Hasnat, probably because of how significant it really was in her life. Let's go back to how they first met. It all began around when a friend's husband was having a triple bypass cardiac surgery. While at the hospital to offer her support and care to her friend, she met Dr. Hasnat Khan, who was the doctor handling the case. The Crown very honestly shows this first meeting. She really did think he was attractive right from the first moment she saw him. In real life, their first date was actually going to watch Apollo 13, the film where they successfully hid from photographers because Diana left in disguise. Just like The Crown shows them, they did hang out together to have junk food with the princess, usually disguised in a dark wig with big sunglasses. They became acquainted when the princess came by the hospital where he worked, and they started talking during his routine rounds. It wasn't long before they hit it off and became close. Sweetly enough, the doctor and the princess began a romantic relationship shortly after a visit to Hasnat's aunt and uncle. Next, this is how their relationship ended. Hasnat and Diana were together for 2 long years, and according to her friends, it was the most serious relationship she'd ever been in since Prince Charles. In The Crown, the end of their relationship is explored after Diana finally gets divorced from Charles. With the end of the marriage finally in sight, the princess could finally pursue another romantic possibility. That possibility just happened to be her boyfriend Hasnat, to whom she went as far as introducing her sons and meeting his family in Pakistan. Things were pretty serious because marriage was on her mind, and they discussed various possibilities for their future together. No plans were ever made to marry, but the subject of elopement was discussed. It's not a surprise that the princess wanted a happy relationship for once after a terrible marriage, but Hasnat didn't seem much of a fan of the idea. Diana, however, was convinced she'd find a way because she even inquired after a priest who'd agreed to marry them. But the doctor didn't want to elope. In the end, they broke up for other reasons, and the two never married each other. While the Crown shies away from mentioning the reasons why they broke up, in real life, Hasnat says he didn't have a bright future in his mind because they were constantly under media speculation. Normal life together just seemed impossible, with tabloids chasing them. Now, let's break down the reasons why they never married despite getting along so well. The media's obsession with Diana was what essentially scared Hasnat of a future they could have together. The constant speculation was so persistent that they could barely enjoy any privacy at all. To Hasnat, that was the only thing that prevented them from marrying because the constant media attention was making his life harder than it needed to be. The press even found its way to the hospital where he worked and harassed him, and people who knew him for information he didn't want to share. Imagine dating someone and suddenly all of your coworkers are getting grilled about the details of your private life to the point that nothing is actually a secret. It has to be hard, right? Well, it was for Hasnat. The reporters didn't let the man breathe and went on the trail of former teachers and lovers so they could make the juiciest headline about them. Hasnat Khan was revealed that the constant attention wasn't only about gossip, but sometimes even death threats. The intensity of the stalking and speculation made him feel like marriage with one of the most famous women in the world would be impossible to live through. He once even said that if they happened to have children together, they could never do normal things with them because of the media. There were talks about moving to Pakistan to get away from the media, but Diana couldn't make the prince's lives confusing by doing that. Ultimately, marriage was off the table. Now, let's talk about what happened to Dr. Hasnat Khan after the relationship. After the relationship, Diana began dating Dodi Al Fayed, which Hasnat had accused her of wanting to do. Some friends of Diana's have sometimes speculated that it was not a serious relationship and that Diana was still very much in love with Hasnat. But nothing more could be said because their story ended with Diana's life in a car crash. Dodi and Diana passed away together, and Hasnat married Hadia Sher Ali years later. The two divorced shortly after, and he went on to marry Som Sohail years later. They've remained married since 2017. The doctor and former boyfriend of the most loved British royal in the world has never revealed negative things about his former girlfriend. He says he'd have liked to have remained close friends with her if she had still been alive. He remains loyal to her memory and only ever mentions her amazing friendship with him. Moving on, let's talk about the worst Diana moments on on the crown. Season 5 has shed the usual way the show tells its version of history. It's longer working with metaphors the audience needs to decipher. Instead, the delivery is on the nose. One such character who is wrapped up in this direct choice of storytelling is Princess Diana. Let's talk about a certain part of Season 5, the explosive interview with Martin Bashir. The interview was received in various different ways by the public, with a wide majority sympathizing with the young princess and her lack of acceptance into the family she's married into. Martin Bashir, however, lies to her about every fact he's provided her about her inner circle betraying her, using the knowledge that this interview happened on Guy Fawkes Day, the day a bomb planned to bring down the parliament failed in the UK, is particularly important. The writer refused to use it as a metaphor artfully and instead dictated the similarities between a masked vendetta blowing up the parliament with Martin Bashir and Diana essentially doing the same with the monarchy. All the synonyms lined up to describe a bomb are used with no subtlety whatsoever. You'll keep hearing words like explosive or dynamite, like we get it. It's ironic. Please stop. The strength of the comparison is completely lost with every iteration, so we rightfully call this one of the worst decisions on the show. Next, let's talk about the conversation between the Queen and Diana after the Martin Bashir interview. The number one problem that some audiences have with Diana's portrayal is how immature they've made her out to be. After the episode where Martin Bashir manipulated the princess into giving him a candid interview about her life and the royal family by extension, Lady Di meets with the Queen to tell her about what she's done. The conversation is fiction, but it's used to give a clear message. The Queen is always right. Queen Elizabeth very coldly tells her daughter-in-law that they only did and wanted the good of Diana. The series positions Diana where you begin to think she's not blameless and that vengeance has made her do what she did. The way Diana is painted, you're almost forced to believe she's incapable of thinking of anyone outside of herself like the Queen wants her to do. In the end, you only seek a husk of the woman she was, and most of her efforts are lost in fiction. Finally, when Diana was shown to be paranoid over her safety, Elizabeth Debicki was a perfect pick for Diana, but the show's treatment of her character wasn't as perfect as audiences would have liked. Some criticisms around Diana's portrayal says it falls short of the woman she was and instead turned her into a negative representation far from the truth. The Crown shows a very paranoid Diana, suspicious about her car's brakes being tampered with and her concerns over her life being secretly taped, which doesn't give enough care to what she was going through at the time. The depiction almost feels like a representation of a gossip magazine headline. The story becomes increasingly fictional when Diana's personality is reduced to only impulse and paranoia in moments like the Martin Bashir interview and the fear of her car being tampered with. Hasnat Khan has weighed in and said Diana was never really paranoid in real life, even if she was concerned about being safe. Diana's former boyfriend has also highlighted that the princess could not have been described as mentally unstable, so the Crown has fallen short in accurately portraying such a popularly known public figure. That's a wrap for this video. What did you think of Diana and Hasnat on The Crown? Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.